what is your view on France's amendment to the 2026 health budget from last week, which intends to end reimbursement for psychoanalytical-based therapies starting on January 1st?
Sorry, it cancels it, or what?
It says that it's not going to be any more recognized and it's not going to be reimbursed anymore, arguing that psychoanalysis lacks scientific evidence and is ineffective, even inadequate, for conditions such as depression, anxiety, or chronic psychiatric disorders, validating only behavioral treatments. Do you see this? This is my question. Do you see this move as a step towards, like the Syndicate of Psychologists said, a form of a state normative psychology? And I believe this is an ideological denial of the unconscious mind, that we are going back to a pre-Freudian state where it's no unconscious anymore.
I tend to agree with you. You know where, from what little I know about it, where I would complicate things. First, I remember these debates when I was still active in France 15, 20, even more years. And the first thing that disappointed me is that quite often members of, at that point, I'm talking about pre-Macron era, Socialist Party, were even more directed like this than some conservatives. This is one of the paradoxes today, that you have a certain moderate left, which is very administrative and so on. But the true problem is when you mentioned psychiatrists, psychologists, and so on, you must have there probably more than psychiatrists, more than not just psychoanalysts. You have ordinary how do they stand? Are they organized?
They say that the only one that is going to be banned and not recognized anymore is psychoanalytical-based treatments.
Of course, I'm sorry, I didn't react to it till now because I'm all tired, blah, 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 the usual story. I didn't know this. But I deeply agree with you that the almost, I would say, in a naive sense, irrational hatred of psychoanalysis is correct. But I wonder now, I will ask you a question with a big knife behind my back and all that poetry.
Don't be bad at me.
Yeah. Would you agree or not that the saddest thing about at least the popular version of trans, LGBT, and so on, is that they also deny the unconscious? On the one hand, they say it's the biological sex, and then they immediately jump to how you perceive yourself. Their debate is, I am biologically a man, but I perceive myself as a woman. So, what I am? Where is the unconscious here? Unconscious disappears, and that's where things are sad for me. How even the movement, LGBT, trans, whatever, which presents itself as the most radical, denies psychoanalysis. Because even this basic confusion is here. The unconscious is not what you don't know about, are not neuronal process in your brain. Unconscious is a form of knowledge that you are not aware of. So I totally agree with you that, and it fits generally this new form. You know why LGBT trans case is crucial for me? At the same time, they present themselves as most radically libertarian. Biology matters, but only secondarily. What matters is how do you experience yourself libertarian. But at the same time, they had to deny the unconscious, which means that it's never as simple as that. Freud made this clearly. The way you experience yourself, your self-perception, is as a rule a lie. We are basically lying ourselves. That's why, even politically, I don't believe in, look, I'll put it like this. In my tyrannical regime, there would always have been a death penalty for one type of persons. Those who say an enemy is somebody whose story we were not ready to hear. It's good to know. So Hitler is an enemy because we were not ready to hear his story. Sorry, when I was young, I read Mein Kampf, and it made me to hate Hitler even more, not less. So my point is that all big criminals or criminal political movements, that's why, my God, how much hatred I got for that, always usually are supported by some poets. My big text, which created me so many enemies, no ethnic cleansing without poetry. It's not a chance that, do you remember, when there was a crisis in post-Yugoslavia, Radovan Karadzic, the leader of Bosnian Serbs, he was a well-known poet. And all other post-Yugoslav nations also had poets. In Rwanda, you remember Hutu Tutsi. Behind it was the great national poet who preached ethnic cleansing and so on and so on. So what I'm saying is that a terrorist, racist, violent regime always enables people to justify their cause as part of some higher sacred mission. The most tragic example, maybe I used it here even, is Soviet Union. In early 30s, forced collectivization. They had a terrible rule, the same as the Nazis, which was, you may be a decent person. I have problems. No, I may be a minimally decent person, and if I'm ordered by those in power to stab a knife into you, don't be afraid, I would have some problems, I must say, you know. But the totalitarian shift that you find, I don't think they're equal, under Nazis and under Stalinism, is that this, they call it small bourgeois restraint. It's the lowest form of betrayal. That true greatness is that you are ready for the political cause to leave behind these ordinary human considerations. People suffer and so on. So what? So when they were training communists to go into the countryside to enforce collectivization, it was part of their curriculum. They told them, you will see horrible things. You will see small children starving, crying, grabbing their mothers. If at that point you will feel sympathy for them, you are a traitor. This idea that's the basic trick of totalitarianism, to make you experience what is a basic decency in you, like, my God, I cannot do things like this, to define real ethic greatness as the ability to step beyond this. No, I'm ready to kill, it serves a higher cause, and so on. And I think this is all part of the same problem. You know where I found a similar problem? Now I will be critical towards Israel. You know that quite a couple of soldiers who returned from Gaza, this is the new psychiatry they want to impose on us. I read, this is so depressive, a couple of honest soldiers returned from serving in Gaza, and then they couldn't live with what they did. They killed themselves. You know what was the official IDF, Israel Defense Forces, reply? That they established a special psychological service to train them into insensitivity, that you can kill without feeling bad, and so on. You know, it's nightmare. I mean, sorry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. There's no psychoanalysis therapy anymore in Holland, because a long time already, maybe on a very few places. I'm a therapist also, so it was part of a kind of money problem, the Dutch society said. And I had my former manager was a very intelligent woman. She promoted in Arabic culture, and she went on to have a lot of stress. So she herself said to the system, the psychiatric system, oh, I'm there, help me. And it was very difficult for her to get out. She was very clever, so she get out of the system. But still, a long time, for example, she wanted to have a decent, good therapy. But she said also to me, they didn't give her, they only give her the obligation to take medicine. And she had to do that on the internet every day, that the psychiatrist saw her to take the medicine. And the clue is they changed the law. The psychiatrist is responsible for the client nowadays. And a lot of psychiatrists doesn't take a lot of risks because they are responsible if the client takes suicide. So a lot of repression.
Agree with you. Just to give an example, I was depressed, had some problems, so I went to a psychiatrist. I think it was in Ann Arbor when I was teaching there for 1 semester, and I didn't want any deep stuff. I just wanted some pills. I didn't want psychoanalysis because although I consider myself a Freudian, personally I hate psychoanalysis. Because I think if I look too deep into myself, I discover that I'm full of shit. And I want to say, fuck off, let's do some work. So what I wanted to say is that what happens to me, it was so traumatic. I came to a young guy who knew about me in theory, and then I told him, I feel worthless and so on, give me just something to make and he said, but this is wrong. Look in the internet, you are famous. So as a therapy, he prescribed to me every evening, open the web and Google you and see, oh my God, so many entries, and repeat to yourself, I'm a famous, I'm a good guy, I'm a famous. And then I exploded and told him, you really want me to kill myself or whatever.